Hi, lovelies. Welcome to Stuck Between the Covers, the coziest little corner of the internet where books and bestie vibes collide. I'm your host, Landry, and the only thing I love more than reading is getting to share it with listeners like you. Every episode is like a virtual bookish sleepover. Think fluffy blankets, late night giggles and gossip, and totally unhinged fangirling over our favorite reads. So grab your snacks, fluff your pillows, and get comfy because it is time to get stuck. That's between the covers, of course. So the day that I am filming this is April 14th, and if you were following me on Instagram, which if you are not, you totally should be, at Landry_reads. We have all kinds of fun there. You guys know I have been a #1 Powerless fan since the year, at least 2024. I read that book for the first time in February, and it changed my life. One of my most anticipated reads this year was Fearless, the conclusion to the original trilogy. So I just finished this book yesterday, and I'm going to give you guys like my unbiased, totally honest thoughts about the book because I have a lot. So let's dive in. This episode will contain spoilers for all of the Powerless trilogy: Powerless, Reckless, Fearless, and even the novella Powerful. So if you have yet to read any of those books and you do not want them spoiled for you, go read them right now. I will still be here when you come back, and I can't wait to chat with you then. As I already mentioned, Powerless and Reckless are some of my most favorite books ever. I read Reckless the day it came out in July, and I had no idea if I liked it more than Powerless or where I stood on that. I knew for a lot of people, I think it was very polarizing. A lot of people really liked it more than Powerless, or were like, this is terrible. And honestly, I can understand both ways. I think Reckless was very character driven, and part of the reason I love Powerless so much is because I love the characters. So like, I didn't have a problem with that. I really liked the plot. Something I like to kind of compare it to is I think Reckless very much reads like a little bit more of a contemporary romance in a sense rather than a fantasy romance. I think it's very focused on them fixing their relationship rather than the fantastical elements that kind of happen in the Powerless world. And I just think coming out of a book like Powerless, where you have all of these trials and everything like that that can be a very different vibe and feel, which Reckless definitely was. And for me, I think that was okay. Like, I really appreciated that. I'm still not sure if I liked it more than Powerless. I think the OG will always just have a very special place in my heart, as well as Kai's original flirtatious banter. Oh my gosh, I love that man so much. So I was very stuck on which one I liked more, and to be honest, I'm still yet to decide. So let's get into the juicy stuff. How did I feel after reading Fearless? The best answer I have for you right now is I actually have no idea. I finished it yesterday, kind of in the afternoon, and it is safe to say it is one of the craziest, most roller coaster ride of a book I've ever experienced. Like, it was insane, and I don't know. I can't even like share. And you might be thinking like, well, lady, how are you doing a podcast on this if you don't know your feelings? I don't know how I feel about the book exactly overall, but I do know how I feel about a lot of little details. And that is what we are going to talk about today. As of right now, I think it's safe to say that Fearless is my least favorite book in the trilogy. I know. I feel so sad because, as I prefaced at the beginning of this podcast, Powerless #1 fan, and this was such an anticipated release for me. I don't know if I would necessarily consider it a disappointment. I mean, maybe a little bit, but also I'm a strong believer in the person who knows these books best is the author, and I fully trust that this conclusion was what this story needed, if that is what Lauren Roberts thinks the trilogy deserved. So I think that everything's okay on that front. As for what happened in the book, I feel like it is safe to say I disagree with a couple of the things just a tiny bit. I think the biggest thing that I've been telling everybody is the plot just wasn't for me. Like I said, I loved Powerless. I loved Kai. I loved Peyton. Okay. But I think when we got into Fearless, as the book kind of went on, I just realized, like, I don't exactly love what was happening. And it wasn't anything super specific, but just the fact that we went back into the trials, that felt really unnecessary to me. I didn't necessarily love all of that put together, I felt like we had kind of already done the trials, and I just thought that the reasoning for Peyton being back in the trials was kind of not needed. I'm just realizing I've already said unnecessary so many times. Was not needed, and I didn't appreciate them kind of just throwing her into that. No. That was not cool, in my opinion, at all. And second, I just felt like, especially towards the end of that book, it was just sad. I am not a sad book reader. Fun fact about me. I know so many people read books and they're like, I want to hurt. I want to feel every emotion. I am not like that. Do not bring your sad books near me. I read for escapism. I do not want to cry. Do not make me cry. Every once in a while you cry a little bit. I'm like, okay, nice to know I can still feel something. But like most of the time, like I have limits, okay? And I just felt like Fearless. Now, granted, Fearless didn't make me cry, but it just felt so heavy. I just felt so much pressure while reading it of everything going on. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the end of the book. I felt like there wasn't a whole heck of a lot going on. And then all of a sudden, in the span of like 20 chapters, I felt like there were 50 big reveals, and I just felt like overwhelmed and terrified for my life. I don't know if anybody else felt like that, but that was how I felt. The fact that anyone who thought they were related to literally anyone going into that series isn't actually related, crazy stuff right there. Honestly, like, it's kind of funny to me, honestly. And my best friend, shout out Brentley at Little Gremlin Library on Instagram. You should totally go check her out if you're not following her already. I love her so much. We were talking, I was sending her updates through the whole read, which I actually did with one of my very close friends, Maddie. We read it all together. So those are some names I may be bringing up throughout the duration of today's podcast. We laughed about so many different things. Going into this book, my little group of friends and I had all joked about it being called Fatherless because, as we know, Peyton had killed the king, Kai's father, and Kai had killed Peyton's father, more or less. And that's exactly where we stand. I was like, the fact that Fearless wasn't called Fatherless was such a missed opportunity. I do say this like partially jokingly, but like also like bear with me here, okay? Everybody's father is dead. Pretend father, real father, thought to be father, unknown father. Actually, okay, you know what? I retract my earlier statement. We don't know where Kai's dad is. We have no clue. We have no idea. So, he could be out anywhere. I would actually really like to see a novella about Kai's mom and Kai's dad and where the heck that came from, because I feel like there is a story to be told there, and I'm totally here for it. I'm so curious. I felt like she was just like, Kai was like, who's my father? And the mom was like, some guy. I want to know who that guy was. I don't know about you guys, but like, tell me, please. So I would really like to see a novella about that, actually. But everyone else, Callum, Adam, Edric, whose nickname is Ed, by the way. Can we address that for a second? That caught me so off guard. I was like, that man is not an Ed. I don't care what you say. That is not an Ed. He is way too mean to be an Ed. Oh yeah. All gone. And I was just a little bit like, wow. Now, I don't know if you guys knew this, but before the release of Fearless, Lauren Roberts had actually released a video saying 4 truths, 1 lie. And one of the turns out to be truths was Kai buries another person for Peyton. And it was so funny because I was texting with my friends afterwards and I was like, who did he bury? And I just feel like that really goes to show how many people died in this book, because I was like, honestly, who was it? It could have been Blair, which, I mean, in hindsight, we know it's not Blair because of that dang last chapter. Blair is the only one who got out of this scot-free, which, crazy. We need to do a crazy count how many times I say crazy in this episode, because crazy stuff happened. But Blair made it out of this alive, okay? But then, like, Mac died. All the fathers died. Random people, I don't know how many people died. I just felt like so many people died. It was Mac. He buried Mac for her, which I remember the moment when she found, like, the dirt under his fingernails. Her little psychic ability, which, by the way, actually, can we talk about that? I felt like her psychic ability, like, disappeared in Reckless. Yes, I know she never had a psychic ability, but I loved that about her. I loved how observant she was. I just felt like that was such a cool, like, okay, you don't have power, but, like, you have a made power, which I think is even cooler anyways. Like, she's just that good. And getting to see so much of that in Fearless, because we had not gotten to see too much of it in Powerless, and we literally did not see it at all in Reckless. Also, she never called Kai Malachi in Reckless. I think she called him Malachi one time in Powerless, and then she called him Malachi like 7 times in Fearless. So growth, I guess. But getting to see her really use her like psychic abilities was so freaking cool and so much fun. I was like, you're a genius. I love this for you. So that was really, really exciting. I really loved kind of getting to see those like little details from her point of view and everything that she was finding out. My example here being when Kai came in after burying Mac, and she was like, he's all washed up but he still has dirt under his fingernails, and she's like, you buried him? He's like, I did. And she's like, oh my god, I love you. Except she can't say that because she's literally engaged to her brother. Not to her brother. Well, okay. Well, I think that's the perfect segue into my next thing with this book. Peyton and Kit are half siblings. Let that sink in for a second. Nobody that thought they were related in this book was actually related to each other. I'm pretty sure I've said that once in this podcast already, and I'm here saying it again. Like, if was anything sacred? Were any bonds sacred? Because the one person that was actually somewhat of a father figure in this book was Adam, and he was dead before the book even started. You know? And then we have Peyton and Kit, which those Edric chapters, I was not excited about those, but let me tell you, I was definitely always looking forward to the next one. Like, Lauren Roberts really knew how to, like, keep us holding on. She was like, oh no, I'm gonna feed you crumbs. I'm going to have you begging for these chapters. And you know what? She did. Round of applause to her for that, because I'm so impressed. As we were kind of piecing that mystery together and had the realization of, oh my god, Peyton and Kit are half/full siblings, because at the beginning of the chapter you didn't know that they didn't share a dad, but if you assume that the ordinary that was born was Peyton, you knew for sure they shared at least a mom, and you thought they shared a dad. And in my head, in my friend's head, we were like, oh my god, what if that ordinary is Peyton? And I literally looked at her and I was like, nah, that'd be crazy. That would mean her and Kit were related. Apparently not that crazy. So then you find out that they don't share a dad, but they still share a mom. And that definitely leaves a feeling in your stomach. And I don't know how I feel about the feeling in my stomach that left. I did not appreciate it, actually. I do know how I feel about it. It was really, really crazy. So then you go through and you have this big reveal of Peyton being like, oh my god, Callum's my dad. And she runs and she tells Kit. She's like, Kit, oh no. And then Kit kills Callum, which we'll circle back to. I feel like I need to get some sort of organizational pattern going on here. And then they go back and get married. So my good friends and I, Brentley at Little Gremlin Library, we mentioned her earlier, and Samantha at Incoherent Fangirl, we have a little group chat. We call it the Easel Hate Club, and I think that is a very, very nice name for our group chat here, because in case you couldn't tell, we are all united under one thing and one thing only, and that is our hate for this random freaking character, Easel. Why is he there? Tell me. Like, why is my guy there? He unnecessary completely. Probably not actually. I guess he did do some things in the plot, but like, I didn't like him. Okay? And I feel validated when talking to good friends Brentley and Samantha about our mutual dislike for Mr. Easel over here. Easel the Weasel, if you will. Anyways, so they're having this conversation, very serious. I feel like just looking about this, like, Kit just, like, stabbed a man in the chest, okay? Which, honestly, at this point, who hasn't? Welcome to the club, Kit. This was your initiation. Are having this very serious conversation, and Easel comes in and is like, guys, we need to get to loot for the second wedding. By the way, at the time this is discovered, they're already married, and they had to kiss at the wedding. Crazy. Did not know Lauren had that in her for us. Crazy. And Easel's like, guys, I think we need to go to loot. Sir, did you not get the part where they might be related? And then they all just went to loot and did a second wedding anyways. I was like, that's crazy. And I'm assuming they kissed again if that's part of the wedding ceremony. Like, and everyone was just okay with it. So that within itself is kind of crazy. And then when you find out later that Kit actually knew that they were half siblings the whole time. Like, oh my god, are you supporting incest? Sir, that is not okay. Ugh. Anyways, so yeah, that's just some of my initial thoughts here. Let's circle back to Callum for a second. At the end of Reckless, I was convinced that Callum was the bad guy in the series. I was convinced. About halfway through Fearless, I said, you know what? I'll give this man a break. He seems low-key cool. I'm okay with it. 3/4 the way through the series, I was like, no, put him back on the list. Put him back. And I'm glad I did, because that man was not a good guy. I genuinely, my heart hurts for Peyton. Like, so many people in this book just hated her, like, with their chest, like, despised her. And I was just like, wow, my girl is handling this pretty well, because you just find out, like, nobody liked her. The king despised her. Anyone who was supposed to love her, take care of her, anyone who was actually her family, hated her. The king, who thought he was his father, wasn't. Psych. Callum. Everyone blames her for the death of Iris, which, I mean, like, that's not really her fault when it comes down to it, okay? Like, she did not choose to be born, people, which I'm sure we all know, but, like, just putting that out there for the sake of, I don't know if Edric, Callum, or Kit ever stumble upon this podcast, but it's not her fault, all right? And then Kit hates her, okay, and honestly, out of everyone who has the most reason to hate her, it's Kit. And I think it's fair to say that Edric mostly hates Peyton because he hates himself for producing Peyton, at least in his mind. Little does he know. But everybody else, I'm kind of like, what's your excuse? I mean, what, you hate? It's a mess. On that note, we need an updated family tree, because the family tree in Reckless, inaccurate. I think it's really interesting too. Kai's not royalty. Nope. I mean, I guess he kind of, sort of is now. Doesn't make him royalty if he's the son of the queen, but the queen wasn't the original, like, I mean, I do guess that kind of puts him in line, but he's, like, the only one who's, like, not originally from, like, pure royal blood. He was not born at the time that someone was royalty. So, anyways, we stumble through this series, and we find out that Peyton and Kit are siblings, and Kai is the son of this, you know, random guy and the current queen. And about halfway through that, I look up from my book over at my friend, and I go, oh my god. She goes, what? I go, Kit and Kai aren't even related. Crisis, I tell you. We had a crisis. The two, like, closest brothers, like, I loved, I don't know. Their relationship, though, my heart. I loved that for them. I really did. And they weren't even related. That's depressing. That's terrible. Okay? And I think it's so interesting, too, how all of this comes together, because I remember when Peyton was so upset about losing her dad, and Kai was like, it's not blood that determines how much of a family you are. He was like, Jax is just as much my brother as Kit is. Yeah, he is, because neither of them are related to you, bro. Like, so that was definitely just like a twist of the knife in my gut. So that is unfortunate and terrible and made me sad. So anyways, we get through all of this your father, not your father drama, and we find out that Kit was low-key the bad guy the whole time. Not the main bad guy, but definitely up there, okay? And listen to me, I was a Kit defender for all of Powerless and Reckless, okay? Like, I felt terrible for him in Powerless. I had a pit in my stomach all 3 times that I have read Powerless. Every time that Peyton's been like, oh my god, I'm lying to him. Yeah, you are. And you should feel terrible, because I feel terrible. We all feel terrible. Like, you are using him, and then you killed his dad. Okay? The man that Kit wanted approval from his whole life, dead. Because of you. Because of something he helped you do. Not cool. Now, granted, we're rooting for Peyton, because she has her own reasons, we understand. But, like, what she did to Kit was not, like, you know, good. Okay? So that's number 1. Reckless. He did some crazy stuff there at the end, you know? You're gonna marry her? That's a little weird, but whatever floats your boat, I guess. But you realize, like, oh my god, like, Callum is, like, orchestrating this, right? So I was like, okay, Callum's the bad guy. Kit is vulnerable. The person that Kit has spent his whole life trying to just prove that he was enough to just died. Like, you can't blame Kit for being crazy in this kind of mental state. Well, apparently you can. Apparently bro knew the whole time. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I feel like you can't blame Peyton for killing Edric when you know that Edric was orchestrating all of this. And Kit did know. And I do, to be honest, I do think it was a little naive of Kit. Because I guess he, like, told his dad when he was like, we need you to show Peyton the tunnels. Kit was like, oh, she would never use me like that. That was not a good look for our bud. And I feel bad. Again, like, that was naive of him. And he did learn. And sometimes that doesn't yield pretty results. But, like, it's what we gotta do, you know? So, I was just really confused by his outbreak. It almost fell out of character for me. I was just really, really confused. And I know that we tried to blame everything on, like, the plague kind of twisting his mind. But, like, then you look at that whole chapter of just, like, letters. Which, insanity, by the way. And he was crazy before he took the plague. Okay? And, like, okay. And I know, arguers over here are gonna say, well, he just wanted that relationship back with his brother. I know. And I support that. I feel terrible. Kit is isolated. He is lonely. And I think he has every reason to feel that the way he did. However, his plan was wild. Like, you're to deliver kingdoms, you're gonna try to spread the plague, something that they already all hate you for. Like, you can't tell me that that is not villainish. Okay? So, do I come out of this series hating Kit? No. Am I still going to be his number one defendant? Probably also not. Okay? And I'm just not impressed by his actions at the end there. Like, that really failed me. And this is where it comes in where I say I just didn't love the plot. I feel like we didn't need that from Kit. I felt like there was a way that this series could have been tied up in a way that Kit wasn't like that, and this didn't happen to him. I don't think it was a crucial part to the storyline. I think if you had taken Kit kind of out of that equation, and he wasn't, like, the bad guy, I'm doing air quotes as I say that, the bad guy, it would have been fine. You know? That's how I feel. So, I go about saying this. I'm really just upset that he died. I felt like that was, again, unnecessary. It broke my heart, and maybe that was why it happened. And I don't necessarily like that being the reason. I was like, I kind of feel like Kit's death was solely to try and make you hurt in a sense, and that wasn't something I am there for. Okay, I didn't want to just hurt or just cry for no reason. Like, Adina died, and that was horrific. Okay, I love her, and I'm so devastated that happened to her, but I felt like it worked kind of with the plot. Like, it made sense. Okay, that was Edric punishing Peyton because he despised her so much for, again, reasons that you learn going into Fearless. And I do feel like it made sense to some extent. And I saw someone draw this really interesting connection. So I've never read The Hunger Games, just putting that out there. I know some of you are going to hate me for that, but I've never read The Hunger Games. Maybe this year will be my year. I have no idea. And someone really compared her to being like the Lucy Gray of the Powerless series. Like, everything kind of comes back to revolving around her. And honestly, couldn't agree more. I think it's really interesting. I had the Target exclusive edition, which had an annotated chapter from Lauren Roberts. And at the end of the chapter, she said, I really like this line because I feel like it highlights how crucial Adina is to this series. Without Adina to soften Peyton, would any of this have happened? And that just really got me thinking, like, wow, like, Adina, so much of this is connected back to her, and she really is at the heart of this story. And it makes me love her even more. Her whole story of my purpose is just as powerful, even if I'm not the one wielding the shiny daggers and getting in the fights and the brawling. And I love that for her. And if anything, like, yes, Peyton is ordinary, but that is what makes her unique, you know? Adina was just a phaser, and I feel like that almost makes her more regular, again doing air quotes, regular than Peyton, because she's not even the ordinary in a sea of elites. She is just one elite in a sea of elites, and there's nothing that really sets her apart from other people. And I think that is a really great place for so many readers to feel seen in that moment. I know I did. Adina is one of my favorite characters I've ever read. I think her whole message is beautiful. I love ever being compared to her, anything like that. I think that's such a great like honor when a friend's like, oh, you remind me of Adina. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. Have I ever gotten that compliment before? I don't think so, but it's okay. This is your chance, guys. This is your chance. But I know sometimes I tell people, I'm like, you do remind me of Adina if you were a book character. And everyone's always like, oh my goodness, because she's great. Because she's great. So I love her. But I felt like with Kit's death, like, there just didn't... Like, what happened there? You were supposed to dodge? Like, also, I felt like that was, like, a terrible way to die. Like, I did think Kit was gonna die, but I thought Kit was going to die, like, defending Peyton and Kai. It kind of rhymed. Sorry. So I was just a little disappointed when the book ended with him dying, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's kind of how I feel on that front. Additionally, I'm someone like, I feel like if you were putting the couple through so much stress, like, you need happy chapters at the end, and I just feel like we didn't get enough of those. I do notice she did like she did do quite a few chapters in between Kit dying and the end of the book, which I appreciated. But I just feel like when you go through 3 books of like just difficulties, all right, of Kai and Peyton being together, like you need the equivalent of, there's like a ratio, you know, and I felt like you needed the equivalent of that at the end of them being like happy and fixing their relationship. Because I do feel like they were kind of still depressed, and then in the last chapter it was like 5 years later, and I was like, oh my god, you guys are all so cute. And also, like, way to end this series on such a depressing note. And then you get to the epilogue with like Kit in the afterlife, and you realize he got visited from death. Granted, I know there's a bonus chapter out there that talks even more about him being visited by death. I haven't read it yet. I've had a friend offer to send it to me, but I will check it out eventually, I promise. I just can't right now. Like, I know I'm like sitting here making what's probably going to be like an hour-long episode of ranting about Fearless, but when I tell you I just kind of need to step away from the series for a moment, yes. I thought that was a really interesting take though, and I loved Adina and Mac as stars. Oh my gosh. And this is an even better segue because now we're going to talk about Mac, specifically his death. Goodbye, happiness. Anyways, I will say going into this book, I did kind of hope for Mac to die, which I know sounds terrible, but hear me out. Adina had already died, okay, and that destroyed Mac. We all know it did. And I just felt like without, you know, the lover to his fighter, one of my favorite quotes from Powerful, by the way, literally one of my favorites. I have it on display behind me. If you're watching the video, I'm holding the book up so you can see, but it says, I know you, and I know that I'm the fighter and you're the lover. This is my Owl Crate special edition that says it, and it's absolutely stunning. I love it so much. Anyways, I just felt like without Adina there, his purpose had kind of been served through her. You know, he already lost Hera. Clearly, his parents didn't necessarily want anything to do with him, which, oh my god, why is that a theme in this series? That is so sad. Anyways, but what I wanted from him in Fearless was either him to die or for him to find like a new purpose, like something that really gave him kind of like a will to live. And I didn't really think we were going to get the latter, so I was like, okay, I think he's gonna die in Fearless, which he did. However, I do not like the way that he died. I felt like he did not get the proper send-off he deserved because he died as Kai. And Peyton didn't know that he died as Mac, and that was so, like, that just made me really sad because and I do like that she went down to like the the dungeon afterwards, and she kind of was like looking at him and like shut his eyes and was like, at least you're reunited with Adina, you know, take care of her for me. I kind of like that she got that closure, but I still feel like, you know, I felt like he just kind of deserved an honorable death. I really thought he was going to like sacrifice himself for Peyton, which honestly in hindsight I do see how that maybe didn't make sense with his character, because clearly he was still pissed at Peyton, and I'm not going to say that he shouldn't have been, because I kind of see it. And again, after talking with friends, like, I do think Peyton to some extent did blow off Adina a little bit in Powerless, but I don't think she didn't have like a good reason for it. Obviously she was busy doing other things. I do think some of those other things were just flirting with the hot prince, which, like, can we blame her? I don't know about you, but I don't think I can. Like, but I do think, hey guys, gals before pals, y'all know the saying, okay? And I do think it was definitely like when she had the time, she spent it with Adina. And I do remember specifically there being a line about like, oh my god, how did I already forget about Adina? Yeah, girl, not your best look, not your best look. For that reason, I do understand when Adina died, I was like, ew, like, Peyton didn't even know who Mac was. And I do think, like, Adina didn't want to distract Peyton from the trials, which, again, I think is very fair, so I don't solely blame Peyton for anything. But it was definitely, like, a team effort, I think. So, I think Mac is just upset, and Mac's life has just been hard. Everyone he's loved is either a terrible person or died, which, oh my gosh, we could start a club. Him and Peyton, see, they have so much in common. So much in common. I feel like he deserved more than dying as Kai, and although he wanted to fight Peyton, and maybe he did get a little bit of that closure, like at the end of the day, it was him who kind of sacrificed himself, and I do think that should have been recognized a little bit. I like the way that even though he did want to fight Peyton, towards the end he was like, no, like, it's fine, because I do think what he truly wanted was just to be with Adina again. He loved her, clearly, and I'm really happy that they're going to kind of get that reunion, even if it's not in the way we wish they could have all had it. But then moving on back to her fighting Kai, why did that happen? I just felt like that was like, I was like, I don't understand why it needed to be Kai. Like, could we not have just brought out Mac and been like, oh, surprise, there's actually been another wielder this whole time? Which, by the way, I did not realize it was called a wielder. I think I knew that like 2 books ago. Forgot completely. I was like, what do you call it? So we've been calling it the Uno reverse power. Very nice power. Uno reverse power. You're going to try to use your power on me. Oops, Uno reverse. Now I'm using your power back at you. And I just felt like that was a really like, see, no one's confused. I feel like that's so obvious. But no, they are wielders technically. And I was like, why couldn't you just been like, oh, we found another wielder in the kingdom, or like, surprise? Because I mean, like, I guess that they don't want to be like, oops, there's been wielders hidden among you this whole time. But like, I feel like you could have made some lie. Clearly we have nothing against that. Okay, like, we can lie the heck out of this thing and be like, so Peyton's gonna compete with him, you know? So I don't understand why it needed to be Kai, especially because at the end, like, Peyton didn't really stab him. Mac was using like his own ability and making it look like Peyton stabbed him, so that was crazy. And also, I feel like Kit deserved to be yelled at a lot more for that. Her and Kai go into the office. Kai's like, you drugged me, which, crazy. And then Peyton was like, what happened? Listen, maybe Peyton is just a better person than me. I don't know. But me personally, if that ever happened to me, I would not be that calm. I would not be that calm. You did not just make me, like, fight the love of my life. You did not just make me think that I just killed the only person I truly care about in this world anymore. Insanity, which clearly Kit was, so it's okay. Also, him coughing up blood. I just want to point this out there real quick. I literally texted Brentley and I said, oh my god, he has the plague. And like, I was kind of joking because, you know, like, historical dramas, like, they cough up blood and it's like, oh no, little Timmy has the plague. That was my joke. Little did I know, he did have the plague, guys. Who's the real psychic in this story? Me. Lest it be known. That was definitely something. And I really felt like Kit should have been screamed at just like a little bit, maybe just like a little, okay? Because I felt like they got over that really quickly. And again, like, had it been me, it would not have looked like that at all. Anyways, for the most part, I think that is everything that kind of like was maybe a little bit off about the book for me. But now let's talk about like everything I loved, because there was a lot of that too. Any Kai and Peyton moment we got, chef's kiss, perfect, fabulous. I adored it. It was spectacular. I really loved, I think my favorite chunk of chapters was when they were doing the second trial and they were sailing. So cute. It gave me all like the old like Powerless and Reckless vibes, and I just loved it so much. And I love that Kai went with her. Also, the queen, I remember her having a beautiful name. Starts with a Z and it's like Zala. We're gonna call her Queen Z. I am kind of obsessed with her. I need stories about her. If we have another novella, like, guys, these are the people I want novellas about, okay? Lenny and Blair, which, oh my gosh, we will come back to that in a second. Kai's mom and dad, or Queen Z, because she is one crazy cool person, okay? I love the fact that she supports and loves Peyton. I think awesome, like, badass female couple right there, and that is wonderful. And then also, like, she knew the roses had the plague in them. Okay, like, someone, like, knows her stuff. Would love to get more info about her. But I just really love that whole journey. I will say I laughed a little bit when like all of the crew was trying to kill the monster in the sea, and then Peyton was like, oh, I got this, and just like stabbed it in the eye. And it was like over. I looked at my friend, I was like, it's not over. Like, the monster's gonna come back. The monster didn't come back. And I was like, okay, great. Take care of business. Silver Savior, I guess. So that also made me laugh. Kai. Let's talk about Kai. Guys, like I said, slumber party podcast. We know what we talk about at slumber parties. Let's talk about the hottest guy in this series, Kai Azur. Obsessed with him. The obsession never left. Guys, I love this man. The flirtation, that's not a word. The flirtatious comments. Oh goodness, I loved it. What was it? Second chapter when he like pulled her into, oh my gosh. Okay, wait, hold on. Sorry. Okay. What chapter was, maybe not second, maybe like fourth or fifth, I don't know, but when he like pulled her into the broom closet, she was like melting down. Is that a like meltdown? Yeah, melting down. We're inventing new phrases over here. Maybe it was chapter 2, but he like pulls her in the broom closet and he's like, we're gonna figure this out, like, don't you worry, like, we can still be in love. And I was like, okay, whatever you say. But on that note, does anyone else feel like Kai at the end of Reckless is so different than Kai at the beginning of Fearless? Because Kai at the beginning of Fearless, like, he took a page out of my man Zayden's book, shout out Fourth Wing. He was like calm, cool, collected. Like, he really seemed like he knew what he was doing. He wasn't worried. And I was like, I love this for you. But at the end of Reckless, he was losing his mind. The Beast doesn't get the beauty. Did we forget about that? By the way, that didn't make an appearance until like 60% through Fearless, where he was finally like, because the Beast doesn't get the beauty. You know what? We never got a beat. I guess the Beast does get the beauty after all 9. Guys, that was such a significant part in this book. And the fact that it never came back and we never like wrapped up that storyline. Like, I made reels joking about Kai needing to watch Beauty and the Beast. Like, watch party in my house, Kai Azur pull up. And we just like never revisited that topic. That's so silly. So I will say, like, Kai, my man, I so love him so much. He's perfect in every way. This book, like, he did nothing wrong. Actually, he was perfect. 11 out of 10 per usual. Love him, obsessed. And I feel so horribly for him and Kit. And I know Peyton wanted to repair her and Kit's relationship, and it was just so hard. It was I will say another thing I appreciate about Fearless is I didn't think Peyton was too annoying about, so love triangles aren't normally my trope. And guys, okay, story time. I watched the first season of The Summer I Turned Pretty because my friends were like, Landry, watch it. And I was like, okay, of course, I got you. And I watched it and it was like, and I think I made it to like the second episode of the second season. And what is DNF but for shows? Oh, actually DNF means did not finish. DNF'd the show. I was like, I can't take it anymore. From till this day, anyone asks me, are you team Conrad or team Jeremiah? I'm team anti-belly. Why are you kissing 2 brothers in the span of like an hour, a day? I don't know. I can't remember. Okay, that's number 1. And number 2, these 2 boys, why are you letting yourselves be played by this girl? Like, what happened to like family over here? Okay, like, this is crazy. Anyways, I really appreciated that we didn't kind of get that in this book. Like, Peyton didn't make like a lot of stupid choices. She did say some things where I was like, bro, you're in love with Kai. But overall, I was like, okay, you're not being like unbearable. Like, it makes sense. I can tell that you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart. So that's nice. I'm really sad that Kit did not want to reciprocate rebuilding the relationship with Peyton. I think if Kit was just mad at Peyton and was like, I want you to die because of everything you've caused me, I think that would be fair. I think it was just the whole, like, he's actually kind of like a bad guy and he had like an evil plot this whole time. And again, like, it wasn't necessarily evil, but it was definitely sketchy. And I feel like if he didn't have that plot and he was just like, but Peyton, I hate you, I would have been like, valid. You're right. If Peyton never came into your life, you would have a million less problems. You'd still have like a couple main ones, you know, pressing your father, never leaving the palace, whatever. But like, I get it. This lady is like almost completely at fault for everything bad that's ever happened to you. So that is understandable. But the rest of it, I was just kind of like, okay, you're a little crazy. Like, you're on your own for that one, man. So that was interesting. Also, the fact that I'm still seeing like Team Kit merch out there. What do you mean Team Kit? What do you mean Team Kit? And guys, don't even get me started on my love triangle rant, okay? One of the OG air quotes, heavy air quotes, love triangles, Jacob and Edward. I don't understand how anyone could be Team Jacob. Bella never liked Jacob. Jacob tried to kiss her and she punched him in the face. Did we forget about this? Guys. So I don't understand how you can be Team Jacob when Jacob was never an option. Why is there even a team? Like, I get it, Taylor Lautner, hot. I understand. You can be Team Taylor and not Team Jacob. I think that is a reasonable thing to say. She never liked him though. And that's just kind of how I felt about Fearless. Like, there's not a Team Kit. She does not like Kit. And she stresses in Fearless. She's like, I like him as a friend. Which is good, because let me remind you, they are half siblings. Okay, he had a crush on her in the first book. Kit had a crush on Peyton. He admits it. They're half siblings. I'm never letting you forget about this. Half siblings. So I just feel like I don't understand why there's necessarily a bunch of Team Kit merch out there. Again, shout out Brentley. I know that you love Kit. I know that you will fight for Kit till the day you die. And I do believe that people need to exist out here who have Kit's back, because clearly no one in this series could have his back. I feel like we just have to admit, that guy took some L's, okay? He did some not great things. Moving on, something that I realized kind of talking about this book with other people too is I know we have Andy and Jax. Who is left at the end of this book? I know we have Andy and Jax, who are mostly for Kai, but I think they did grow on Peyton. Oh my gosh, I love the scene. Sorry, chapter 23, one of my favorite chapters in the whole book. Lauren loves it because it's the one where he carries her shoes, and she made a whole video about it. I love that chapter so much. I think it would have been better if Kit wasn't there. Sorry, not sorry. He definitely he just made me feel icky, because you could tell that he didn't like Peyton. I felt like the awkwardness was really obvious when he was there, but it was nice to see her let loose. I know Kit was just happy to be with Kai because he wrote about it in his letters, but I really just liked seeing Peyton let loose like that. And that's actually one of my favorite tropes, when the girl kind of gets drunk at a party and then the guy takes care of her. I love it, because I just feel you really get to see kind of their personality in a sense, especially someone like Peyton, who's always just so pulled together, kind of just getting to see that silly and goofy side of her, because you got to see that with Kai. Kai's, I feel a little bit more open about who he is, at least around Peyton. No one else, but at least around Peyton. And you kind of got that scene of him at the second ball. Was it the second ball? I think it was the second ball. Yeah, because that was the one that was outside with Peyton, and he was a little bit drunk. And then you get one of the best lines of the whole book: "You promised I could touch you when I was sober." Oh, delicious. Anyways, because you got that in that book, so I really liked kind of getting the mirror side of that in Fearless. Just loved getting to kind of see her let loose, and I just felt that was such a wholesome chapter. And she asked Jax to dance with her, and he was like, yeah, okay. And he's so cute. Oh my goodness, I love him so much. So that was really, really adorable. But the point that I was making is, I'm so happy Kai and Peyton ended up together. Yes, we all wanted them to be endgame, but at what cost? Everyone they loved, again, sans Andy and Jax, everybody else though dead. And even Lenny, he wanted to leave. I just kind of feel I'm so glad you guys are together, but you were all alone together. It feels like inverse Romeo and Juliet. And I'm whatever the price you're willing to pay is great for you guys, but that just kind of made me sad. I felt they should have had some sort of people still left. Also, I never really saw Kai in that kingly role. I think it was really interesting. In the first book, Peyton asked, do you ever wish it was you? And he was like, no. But then he follows it up with, because I would never want Kit to be me. So maybe he does wish he was king. But does he wish he was king because he wants to be king? Or does he wish he was king because he hates being enforcer? You know what I'm saying? And clearly he just didn't want to be king because he didn't want Kit to have to go through what he went through. Which, another example of their beautiful relationship, which was destroyed in the last book. And them trying to keep Kit, as the good king to the kingdom. Respect. Would I have had it in me? I don't know, actually. Maybe if I was in the world and really experiencing this firsthand, maybe I would. But as a reader, I was kind of wow. So I really do applaud them on that, though. And I think that really kind of just shows who Kai and Peyton are at their core. So that was really sweet and cute. I just was kind of surprised by the fact that Kai ended up becoming king. And I do think, Peyton did a pretty good job of stepping into that queen leadership role. But, I didn't really expect to see that from Kai. So that was really interesting to me, how he ended this series being king, because that was not something that I would have seen coming or predicted. This book was full of shocking things, so what's one more? And then earlier I mentioned Lenny, but specifically Lenny and Blair. Okay, now first off, I want to say, I told you so many people died in this book. The fact that we see Blair at the end, yay, hashtag character development for Peyton. Cool, she's let it go, she's moved on, she's happy now. But the fact that Blair finished this book alive when she was the only one that I feel everybody agreed on getting her out of here. Everyone wanted her gone, everyone wanted her to die. Peyton swore that she would die, and there she is, just living her life still. 5 years later, Mac's dead, Kit's dead, everybody else is dead, but there's Blair. because even cockroaches don't die. Say it with me, everybody. Like, Lenny knew what he was talking about. Back on the topic of Lenny and Blair, though. Oh my goodness. I don't love Blair. I feel like I've made that clear. But whatever was going on, when she said, I lost my mind. She said, shut it, Ginger Snap. That was so funny to me. Cracked me up. Her and Peyton were fighting and Lenny was like, Peyton, she's all, shut it, Ginger Snap. I was like, oh, shots fired. Okay. I wouldn't be mad if we got a novella about them kind of maybe sort of falling in love and like exploring the world together. You know what I want to know, actually? Sorry. Who knew that Blair was still alive? Did Kai know? Did Kit know? And Kit didn't tell Kai because he knew Kai would tell Peyton, because I think Kai believes that, like, to some extent, that she should be allowed to get her revenge. Like, I think he knows why she can't, but I think he, like, truly believes that she should. Because I would be kind of pissed if we went through all of that and, like, Kai was like, oops, I knew she was alive the whole time. Whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? Just because I feel like if Kai were, like, if she were engaged to Kai the whole time and Kai was to become king, Kai would have been like, you can kill her, I don't care. Like, he would have been like, screw allies, doesn't matter. You know, very, very morally gray male main character energy, which there's a reason we love these people. I just thought it was really interesting that she was someone who kind of got to make it out alive in this series when so many other people did not, which, you know, disappointed in, but like I said, yay character development for Peyton. Just trying to look on the bright side here, people. I'm actually a very positive person. This is all a lie. I try to be a very positive person, and this is me channeling that positive person energy. But I would love to see a little bit more about her and Lenny's story, if there is one there. Like, maybe we're trying to make something out of nothing, but I just, like, clearly they spent a lot of time together. You know, Lenny was supposed to be guarding her and everything. That would just be, I feel like, some fun we could have. Okay, now I want to talk about some of my favorite quotes. I have two of them. One of them I highlighted, and the other one has just really stuck with me. This first quote is from chapter 22. It's in Kai's point of view, and it was just so cute to me. I really loved it. It says, "This girl holds my heart in her hands, could crush it between her fingers, and still have me thanking her for the touch. And I hold her shoes." Guys, I think we know, like, Kai is willing to go the extra mile for Peyton, okay? And I think Lauren kind of talked about this in some of the videos that I had seen on her Fearless tour. Like, we know that. We know he's willing to do the crazy thing, like, burn down the world for her, okay? He says, "I burned down a house to get to you. Now all of Ilya stands in my way. I'm tempted to light a match." By the way, the fact that that's coming off of memory. A round of applause real quick, please. Thank you. And now we're also seeing, though, like, in his tiny mannerisms, how much he loves her. He loves her in the small ways, too, and not just those big grand gestures. And I just think that that was something so beautifully showcased. And I love this quote so much, because he's saying, she has so much power over me, and I'm still gonna continue to do these little things for her. It just melted my heart. Genuinely, like, these were some of my favorite things about this book, is how good some of these quotes were. My next favorite line has to be in chapter 37, when Peyton meets Mac for the first time, and they're in the fort, and they're, like, hugging, and then she notices he has, like, a sad smile, and she goes, "What?" And he says, "Just admiring the sun." Guys, when I tell you that, like, both broke and healed my heart at the exact same time, I'm in love with that line. I was already in love with their story, and the fact that at the end of Powerful, he's like, "Thanks for choosing, like, the closest star and the sun, because it just outshines all of them." I'm just like, my heart, I loved that line. Just admiring the sun. Perfect. Gorgeous. It was so just pretty and cute and everything. I'm so happy that Lauren put it in there. So there may be a chance I look a little bit different. I know if you're watching the video, my hair is tied up. I may sound a little different, and the only reason for that is it is actually the next day. I know, this is the first episode I've ever tried to record, so we had a couple situations, but everything is fine. Everything is fine. And it's okay, because we left off perfect timing. I'm going to walk you through the Unhinged Fearless playlist, okay? Every single song that popped into me and Bestie Maddie's heads while reading, we actually saved into a Spotify playlist that you can listen to. I will link it in the show notes. I know it's linked in my bio, which you can find literally anywhere. Go take a listen if you, like me, are facing the biggest bookish hangover and use humor to cope with the tragic things. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna walk you guys through that playlist just a little bit, because I'm actually kind of obsessed with it. So starting off strong, we have That Should Be Me by Justin Bieber. I feel like that is really self-explanatory, because there's literally a line in Fearless where Kai sees Peyton and Kit together, and he just goes, "Because that should be me." Babes, when I tell you that happened like 20% into the book, that was all I sang for the rest of the book. Like, I was starting to annoy myself, okay? Can you only imagine having to be around me during that time? That should be me holding your hand. I love how I'm holding a microphone. I have a microphone right here. That should be me holding your hand. That should be me making you laugh, said Kai, literally all of Fearless. So that's track number 1, and rightfully so. We also have Anxiety by Doechii, which specifically spurred from that moment when Peyton went into the cave to retrieve the crown. Girl, let's talk about having anxiety. Yeah. We also have I Don't Like the Darkness by Chase Atlantic, and that one is a little bit more serious. I'm just thinking, if you're looking at like the lyrics, and she's like, I don't like the darkness. Again, we're kind of going back into that cave space, but it also says gray in your eyes, your soul must be silver plated, which Kai's eyes, gray, and like taking you back to those silver savior days, which again, another thing I'm really glad we kind of got to come back to in Fearless. Like there was so much like silver savior. I really felt like she took kind of control of that title back. So that was really fun to see. The next track we have is You Should See Me in a Crown by Billie Eilish. Oh my gosh, tell me, is that not Peyton? And even Queen Z, like, but specifically Peyton, that line where she's like, so sneer if you must, I won't see it when you're like bowing to my feet. I was like, shots fired. Obsessed with all of that. Our next track is Juno by Sabrina Carpenter, and you might be thinking, what? Well, first off, Kai is Sabrina Carpenter. You really can't convince me otherwise. They have the exact same sense of humor, and I am so here for it. But also, the specific song choice can be credited to the fact that in the middle of our read of Fearless, we saw a reel, because Lauren Roberts was on tour throughout the time that we were reading, and somebody had asked her what was Kai's favorite position. Crazy, I know. So that just kind of got added to the playlist because we were like, oh, he's a little crazy. That's awesome. Anyways, next up on the playlist, we have Hard Times by Paramore, and I just love that song because, like, hard times. Like, is there anything else that sums up Fearless as much as that? Hard times. I feel like that's exactly what happened through all of Fearless, but also, like, that catchy beat. I felt like that was a very, like, nice little, just kind of like silly way of putting it. The very like depressing, like everything is going wrong, and also like we're just jamming. We're just jamming. That was me reading Fearless, at least. Next on the playlist we have Highway to Hell by AC/DC. I'm actually really proud of the addition of this one because there's a specific line in Fearless. Let me pull up the screenshots. You ready? It says, you look like someone who has just done the impossible. This is Kai talking to Peyton, and then Peyton says, so I look like hell? And Kai replies, if you look like hell, then I'm fortunate to be going there. And not only is he going there, no, he's racing there. He is on a highway to hell. That man, you cannot keep him away from her. And we support that on this podcast. Yes, we do. So really proud of the addition of that song. Next up, we have Ordinary by Alex Warren, which has become somewhat of a book talk and bookstagram sensation, and rightfully so. Gorgeous song. However, we're much more taking the song at face level. Peyton is an ordinary. We thought, put that sucker on the list. Perfect. We don't even have to make any connections there. They've done it for us. The next song we have on there is No One Mourns the Wicked from the Wicked movie, and that one really came into fruition when Blair died, air quotes, for I think the 3rd time on this podcast, because as soon as news passed that she had also passed, you better believe that me and my friends started going, she's dead. We were really celebrating, which clearly we did too soon because it did not stay that way. The next song on the list, we have Queen of Mean from Descendants 3. Honestly, since kind of sharing this playlist out with people, a lot of people have had different like interpretations. Like you can definitely apply this to Edric, and I think even parts of like Peyton, like I think that's really interesting because it does say like if they want a villain on the throne, like I'll be the best villain, and I kind of love that for her because she's like, oh, if they're gonna, you know, hate me on the throne anyways, like I'll show them, right? Like you can sneer at me, I don't care. And I was just like, oh, okay, eat. But the original thought of this was Kit. It sounds right. It just does. You just have to listen to it. I think it's like an if you get it, you get it kind of vibe. I love it. Okay, next we have Kings and Queens, kind of sticking to that royalty theme. And this one is a specific song for our babes, Peyton and Queen Z, because if all of the kings had a queen on the throne, we would pop champagne and raise a toast to all of the queens that are fighting alone. Yes, obsessed. Love it so much. Next up, we have Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard Skinner. I once again bring to your attention half siblings, people. Half siblings. Crazy. And sticking with that theme, we have I Always Wanted a Brother from the Mufasa movie. Did Peyton always want a brother? I don't know. Did she get one? Yes. Did Kit always want a brother? He did. Did he get one? Not exactly. So, a little bit of irony for everybody there. Next up, and I am convinced that people are definitely going to hate us for this one. Remember, guys, humor to cope. We have Please Don't Leave Me by Pink. You know, is that what Kit said with his final breaths? Perhaps. Did we add it to the playlist? Yes. Yes, we did. Also on that note, I'm very tempted to add Stay by Rihanna to this playlist because, I mean, we got a scene in Powerless of Kai begging Peyton to stay. Kind of got a little mirror scene of that in Fearless, so like, should I add it to the playlist? I don't know. Next up, we have I Love You, I'm Sorry by Gracie Abrams, which honestly, just like the vibes. I just feel like if you listen to it, is that one unhinged? Not necessarily, but it feels right when you listen to it. Plus, I'm never going to pass up an opportunity to add Gracie to a playlist. And finally, coming in strong, we have Daddy Issues by The Neighborhood. I've said it before. I'm not going to say it again. I think you all get it at this point. Yeah, we have that one there for sure because the biggest theme in this whole story. Alright, so that was a little tour of our Unhinged Fearless playlist. If you want to go listen to this playlist, I have it on my Spotify. I have it linked in my bio. You will be able to find it, I promise. Please tell me what other songs I should add, by the way. I'm so curious and I want to know if you guys had any thoughts while reading. And finally, we have made it after this behemoth of an episode to the end. Can you believe it? I can't. I'm actually so proud of myself for being able to sit down and talk this much. And I don't know why I thought it would be so impossible because, in case you can't tell from, again, what is probably going to be an hour of an episode, I am quite the talker. So I see great success for all of this podcasting stuff in the future. We are all done. Thank you guys so much for joining me, especially while I got to talk about one of my most favorite series ever. This was really so therapeutic coming out of Fearless. Like, I already feel so much more equipped to go out there and like handle my life post Powerless trilogy. It's okay, you know, I can already feel the emptiness. I'm just gonna let it heal because Fearless did destroy me in the best and worst ways. It's time to go forward and see what else Lauren Roberts has in store for us. I'm so excited. I can't wait for the new novella announcement. Again, like, there's so many opportunities of where that can go, and I can't wait to find out. And now, finally, I really do need to just find a way to close this off. Do I have anything planned? No. We like to wing it over here. You have been listening to the Stuck Between the Covers podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Landry, and if you're not following me on Instagram, you totally should be at Landry_reads. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I hope the rest of your day is absolutely wonderful. And I hope you enjoy the Powerless series as much as I do. I can't wait to chat about it more with you guys, and I really do hope you choose to stick around for future episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, you could give this little video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. If you're listening to it on a podcast platform, maybe rating the show. I don't know if you can comment on a podcasting platform, but if you can, you should. I would love to hear which book is your favorite in the trilogy. Please tell me what it is and why. And without further ado, goodbye everybody. Bye lovelies.